So let's begin. I will share my screen with a quick introduction about the Lechler company, and then we will come closer to topic of plant protection. So today's topic, protect your crops and reduce losses, how we named it. You see the name of me, Jürgen Winter. I'm with Lechler, a bit more than 10 years, and responsible for our called home market, Germany. I traveled to the Netherlands and also to Denmark. And already Jan introduced himself. He's for further east, Scandinavia, except Denmark. He's responsible and your contact person. So a few numbers, a few figures about Lechler, not too much. And I always like to draw some lines into the slides. So important is mainly one figure on this first slide. It's the long history of our company, that we have quite some experience to produce nozzles for all kind of liquids, for all kind of applications. So you see our turnover, the number of employees on the globe worldwide, and they not all working for the agricultural division. Metzingen headquarter, we are placed in the southwest of Germany, so about 30 kilometers close to Stuttgart in the southwest. The region is called Baden-Württemberg, not Bavaria. Often when I ask people, yeah, you are in Bavaria. No, we are in Baden-Württemberg, so on the southwest end of Germany. Metzingen headquarter, at the moment a big construction place. We also, we're doing a new main building here, a main office building, because the old one, which is currently this one, is getting too small. And also there's a new logistics center already established, already running. So we will take some new pictures when the new building will be ready. Metzingen headquarter is one of our places on the globe. Totally, you will see in the video, we have six production centers on different locations. Important for you as our ag customers, as our agricultural dealers, the nozzles used in the agriculture will be produced or are produced still and will be also in the future produced here in Germany. This factory is our knowledge center for injection molding. So we have all the machinery concentrated here, all the knowledge concentrated here. And of course, we have also a huge laboratory, which is this one, a huge laboratory here. The investment was about 10 million euro. You will also see in a short video in a second. Lechler is working on these four main divisions. So Jan, Jérôme, and me, we are working 100% for agriculture. Agriculture means, of course, liquid fertilizer application, plant protection. And the biggest one, roughly 40% in Lechler, roughly, is the general industry. You see here food industry, chemical industry, all kind of applications. And two really special ones are on the top end. This is like steel production, metallurgy, cooling of steel, decoating, producing of aluminium folds and so on. And air quality control here is also real special. Customers there are power plants, waste burning plants, and so on. And we are looking for cooling of gas, cleaning of air, and so on. And I don't want to talk too much about it. You will see this in a short video. We will have a look to now and jump off to YouTube. I always like to stop the video here. I was a second too late. When you see this transporting belt and dropping off IDK blue nozzles. IDK 120-03 in blue. It's a nozzle made of two parts, the housing and the injector. And every second, one nozzle is dropping out of this belt here, dropping off. And the reality is totally different, because customers there, they face me and said, okay, one nozzle is roughly €5 list price. So every second, €5, €10, 15. And that's why I stopped the video here. The reality is completely different. To produce one body, one housing takes about a minute, so close to a minute. and then takes another minute to produce another single body. So the process is much slower in reality to gain real precision, because our nozzles are real precision parts, of course, made of plastic, but you cannot compare them with like a cable tie, which is really a mass production. So it's really slow to gain the precision we would like to have, and you also accept from Lechler as a major brand for all kind of nozzles. So that's why I stopped it here, and let's continue now. I think you can get a good impression about our company, about the different divisions, and the real wild field of applications. So not only ag, we have so many different challenges to overcome and to design so different type of nozzles. And this is also a benefit for us as agricultural people. We can use this knowledge.
Die Deutschen haben einen Weg gefunden,
we can use this knowledge also, of course, for the agricultural division, for the agricultural section, because I already mentioned the investment in this measuring center was more than 10 million euros, and this would be not able if we would produce only agricultural nozzles. So, quick impression, and during the webinar, I prepared several surveys to see, okay, who is there? Where are you sitting? Where are you taking place? So I have several surveys during our morning, and the first one will be from where are you taking part? So you see a map of Europe, and the first survey will start in a second. I will have to jump off to Teams again, and it will start now, and it will be called, hang on. It's not working for everybody. We heard some guys, the chat is not working and they cannot take part on the survey. So we have to solve that for the next time. And now I will start. From where do you take part, the first survey? So it will be interested where all the people are coming from this morning. So I'm the one from Germany, and then you have to log in and then press, of course, sending. So we have Germany, we have France, we have Benelux. Yes, I've seen several people also registered from a huge wholesaling company. We have UK, 13%. Benelux seems to be the majority this morning. Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, real nice, 20%. And it's also some other regions, some down from Greece, Italy, Spain. So thank you for taking part. Yeah, please close your microphone. And I will stop the first survey. And thank you for taking part. And the result is also displayed in the chat box. So thank you. And we will continue in the webinar. So if we talk about spraying, if we talk about plant protection, and of course we will focus on nozzles this morning, but to consider the success and how we will get success and sustainability in plant protection, it's not only a nozzle. Of course, in the thinking of farmers, of course, we need to select the right product, the right chemicals, the latest product, the correct mode of action to avoid resistance, to get the result we would like to have. And that's why are those logos here. So I would say, yeah, one is the latest product, the right chemical to choose for, and of course you need to have knowledge, okay, how to spray, when to spray, how many liters per hectare, and then finally you have to select the correct, the proper technology. And I call it always like kind of a gearbox. Each one is a kind of a wheel in our gearbox. And then we talk about the huge technology, the big one. It's like number 3, a good sprayer, a professional sprayer. And these pictures are just examples. Don't get me like that only Amazon, Daman and Horsch are producing good sprayers. This is just an example. The sprayer can be used, can be 10 years old, can be even 20 years old. And as we have in many, many countries, the regular sprayer check all over in the European Union, the quality of the sprayers improved, really since introducing this sprayer check in all those countries. And if I talk to my colleague traveling further east, like Ukraine or down to Turkey or further east, they say, Jürgen, those sprayers, even on big farms, are in such an awful conditions. And I try to teach him how to calibrate and how to check nozzles, because they have no mandatory sprayer check like we are used to in the mid of Europe. So big sprayers in good shape, in good conditions, can be a small, can be an old one, and of course to choose the proper Lechler nozzle. And it's always important to have it connected, the sprayer, and especially the boom management system, the boom control in connection with the nozzle finally has a big influence of drift, of penetration, of the quality finally of our application. So I call it a gearbox. Select the proper products, the latest products, gain knowledge, and that's why are you here today. Also gain knowledge about nozzle technology when talking to your customers or to real practical farming. So it works together, and then we finally will have success and also sustainability as a keyword. So how to gain precision? How to gain precision? Of course, you could see the investment at the Lechler place for all kind of test benches, measuring devices. And of course, we also sometimes produce nozzles which not fulfilling our quality standards. And we have also quite set it up a very sensitive quality control system in our quality department, which is completely independent from sales, from production. And they are quite strict guys and say, okay, please, this nozzle, scrap it. It goes to the container, or we recycle it and we use the material once again. And I would say 99.5% we are detecting these failures before shipping those nozzles to our customer. We are quite strict there, and I think not all the manufacturers for nozzles are working in that way. So, but this is just one part. And when talking about precise application, we're talking about boom height. Boom height in general and nozzle spacing in general, the general spacing, I would say, it's still 50 centimeter, here 500 millimeters. Globally, we have also sometimes 37, which is common in Northern America. And we're talking more and more also about, I call it always half spacing, which is a 25 spacing. And in the second half of the webinar, we focus a little bit closer on half spacing, which is a kind of a trend for in some countries. And the nozzles, the spray pattern are always overlapping. You know that, and we have experienced guys here, and they know, okay, it's an old story. Nozzle spray patterns are overlapping, and we have always a parabolic distribution. So it's like with a fertilizer spreader. When we go up and down, we finally get the result. And this is the same with our spray pattern on the traditional standard nozzles. We're not talking banding. We're talking broadcast application. So also when the move moves a little bit up and down, we have a precise application. And often when I'm doing a live presentation, I ask the people there, okay, you're also working in hectares here. So how many square meter is 1 hectare here in your area? And they're looking at me and say, what he's asking? It's always 10,000 square meters, and it's not more a joking question. And of course, it's always 10,000 square meter per hectare. But if we look to this sugar beet plants, the big questions, do we also spray on 10,000 square meters on 1 hectare? We do this on bare soil, like a pre-emerge, post-emerge herbicide. We really spray 10,000 square meter. But if we have leaves like that, we spray 20, 30, maybe 40,000 square meters per hectare. And that's why we always increasing or try to increase to cover all those leaves, increase the water rate in liters per hectare. And as you know, normally, often we spray 200 liters. If conditions are really good, that means early morning, night spraying, we can go down to 100 liters, but this really depends on the conditions. And on a fungicide treatment like here, where we have 40, 50,000 square meters to cover per hectare, often the water rate is higher, especially with contact products. And another guess for you, if we spray 200 liters per hectare down here, how much is that per square meter? 200 liters per hectare, how much is that per square meter? That's not much. It's just a small schnapps, we call it over here. It's 20 milliliters. Of course, in some areas you like to have 50 grams or 100 grams, but here in Germany we mainly have 20 milliliters as a small schnapps, as a rum or vodka. So that's not much, 200 liters per hectare. It's just 20 milliliters per square meter. And our nozzles and the boom management systems finally need to control the application in that way to place 20 milliliters or just 10 millimeters with 100 liter hectare on 1 square meter. Boom height has a huge influence on spray quality. And you see this in the next slide. If you're going fast and raise our boom too high, we have less penetration, and the effect or the risk of drift really increases connecting to our boom height. And that's also we see on the machinery manufacturing side. More and more machinery manufacturers improve their boom management system to really go down on 50 centimeters or even lower, also with fast application speeds. And there was a guy here in Belgium. He had a closer look what happens to drift in field measurements. So he was spraying here with a boom, and I tried to draw a line, here at 1 meter. And what you see here, if you're running our boom at 75 centimeter height, which is typical, often look to brochures of manufacturers, and I don't want to claim them. If you look to brochures, to pictures, or if you see a sprayer in the field running, often the boom, there's the wheel, and the wheel on bigger sprayers is roughly 2 meters high. And often the boom is at the center of the wheel spraying downwards here. So often far too high. So 75 is the reality, and this science guy, he discovered 12% drift. So you can still say, okay, there is 88% left. So 88% left is still there, but this 12% is just wasted money and creates problem on off-target areas, like in the forest, on grassland, in the villages, and so on, in the rivers, and it's far too high boom when going in windy conditions. And the target should be, of course, with 50 spacing, like here, roughly cut it down to 6, 7, so cut it roughly down half, just to go, if you go lower with your boom, using the same nozzle type. So this is a heavy influence how high we are running our boom in the field. And there's still a benefit if you go closer, if you go from 50 down to 30 centimeter, but the step here, you see here, is there, but it's a lot smaller, coming down from 1 meter, let's say, down to 50 centimeter. So that's what a trend to have a real improved active control of the booms. And then finally, if we go down to the yellow curve, we really need the 25 centimeter spacing to have a proper cross distribution. With 50 spacing, we can go down, of course, to 50 centimeters and even a bit lower with Lechler nozzle. So huge effect of boom height in terms of drift. Now you see some drawings about general nozzle types, of Lechler nozzle types, but what I'm talking about now, of course, is also valid for other manufacturers. And if you look back 20, 30, maybe 40 years, the LU nozzle, or from the competitor, it's called XR, which is extended range, or some they call it ER, which is also extended range. It's a standard flat fan nozzle, which is still in our portfolio and still sold in quite good numbers for areas where drift control is not mandatory. So we cannot reach any drift control, any reduction in percent. So we have 0% reduction. We have theoretical, a real good coverage with a very fine spray, fine or medium spray, good coverage. But in windy condition, it's not possible at all to spray with those type of nozzles. The spray window per day is really limited. And then the next step was to design an AD nozzle, which is called DG at the competitor. Our main competitor on the globe is T-Jet. In some areas, it's a bit more Agrotop or Hypropent air, but it's a general view on nozzle design here on this slide. AD, anti-drift called, or drift guard called with T-Jet. It improved the spray pattern. It's more a medium spray, but still is not reaching really high reduction classes for many countries, like based on JKI Germany, it's still 0%. And it's recovering a little bit. It's coming back, the AD 90, especially in the Netherlands with regulation or with orchard and wine. We see a growing demand for these pre-orify AD nozzles. Many countries, even which have no regulation in terms of drift reduction, many farmers using air induction tips, Venturi tips. And the first one was the long design of the ID, which is Injektordüse in Germany, called AI with T-Jet, air induction with T-Jet, and both are long style, long tips. And I always like to compare these Venturi nozzles with a shock absorber mounted in different vehicles, like in your car, in trucks, and so on. So why this comparison of a Venturi nozzle and a shock absorber? So if you're running with your car into a big hole, there's a transfer from the driving into this hole onto your chassis if there would be no shock absorber. So the shock absorber in your car just takes out the energy takes out the force to your chassis. And what we do with our Venturi nozzles, we also take out energy, reduce the velocity of the liquid inside the nozzle body. You know, the dosification, the metering orifice is always on top. Like an 03 nozzle has a design, an 04, always it's metered on top. And for instance, if you run those ID nozzles at 2 bar, low end on the headland, close to open water, liquid is pushed in through the orifice, and parallel, the Venturi function is sucking in air. So sucking in air means we reduce the velocity of the liquid inside the nozzle body, and we have a coarse or extra coarse spectra, coarse or extra coarse, and then we can reach also reduction, for instance, with the ID nozzle up to 90%. And what happens if we increase the speed? We increase the speed, leaving the headland and going into our normal field application down the tram lines. We're going faster and the pressure increases up to, let's say, 5 bar. The sprayer tells the regulator, okay, we're going faster, increase the volume on the pump. So finally, also the pressure increases. And parallel, immediately the nozzles, the Venturi nozzles, are able to suck in even more air because we have more liquid. The Venturi function is increasing, and we can still reduce the flow, the velocity of the liquids inside the nozzle. And even with 5 bars, we're not having a very fine mist as with like standard flat fan nozzles. Because there we really have the full pressure out down in the mouthpiece, and that's why we are creating really fine or medium droplets. And that's the big benefit of all the Venturi nozzles. We can reach up to 90, some have 95 even % reduction. And for the like medium pressure, like 5 bars, we have a really good spray pattern, and in good conditions we can even raise pressure up to 8 bar with the ID nozzle. So we have a very, very wide spray window and the ability to go close to open water, spraying close to villages, spraying quite close to bystanders who are passing our fields. In the last years, we developed a new type of nozzle series. It's now ready for sale. It took us a bit longer than planned. It's the XDT series. And at the moment, behind the doors, we are developing also an XD series without a T. This is a twin fan. And this is a kind of a special design following the pre-Orify design. It's not a Venturi nozzle. I'm just discovering that there are the German drawings here. But you see here, there is also a pre-Orifice down here. And it's really working well also with PWM. And it's reducing the velocity with a different technology. And we can reach up to even 95% drift reduction or 90% with higher pressure. It's a kind of a new design also for us at Lechler, this new XDT. And soon also planned for next year will be a new series called XD. So standard flat fan still on the market, no drift reduction, and the numbers are also decreasing here at Lechler. Our most sold nozzle over the last 2 years is the compact air induction series IDK and IDK-T. Jan, any questions up to now in the chat box or in the Q&A box?
Not so far. Thank you.
Not so far. Yes. So we have globally a big issue with drift reduction of herbicide. Hang on, I just have to check. I will skip this slide. It will come again. Sorry, I mixed something here. Now we talked about ideal pressure and drift reduction. Drift reduction, of course, is important in many, many countries to fulfill the regulations. The ideal pressure is always a different setting. And very easy is this regulation or rule of thumb, let's call it, the length of the nozzle in centimeter, which is 2.5 with the IDK roughly. So this finally tells us, okay, run the compact air induction tips, IDK, IDK-T, and this is also valid for other manufacturers, roughly plus minus 2.5 bar. And you see here 2.5 bar, quite a good spray pattern on this water sensitive paper. And it's a very important slide, this one here. What happens if we go faster and we double the pressure with an IDK, with a compact style air induction tip? You see here from 2 to 4 bar. If we go faster, there's a kind of a major change of the spray pattern. So the compact design is not able to compensate the increase of pressure, and the spray pattern really gets finer. If we spray in the night time or early morning time, this is okay. We can accept this finer spray. But when we have real windy conditions and we want to have a good penetration, this increase of fine droplets here, you see much finer droplets, it's a problem. It's a problem now, too much drift, too much evaporation. So finally, the speed range or the liter hectare range with a compact air induction is much smaller than with the long style of air induction tips. The same rule of thumb, 4 centimeters roughly with the ID. This is also valid for other ones. I repeat myself, 4 bar sometimes 5, can be 3 bar in really windy condition. You see at 2.5 bar, we have a coarse, it's a very coarse spectra here on this water sensitive paper, and we can reach 90% drift reduction for many, many countries. This is very important to reach this reduction value. And if we will increase the pressure going faster from 2.5 to 5, there's also a change. You see here, there's a change, but it's a difference from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. We double the pressure, or we double the output of the nozzle, and we have a change. We have some finer droplets, but still a really acceptable spray pattern and not too much drift. So the summary is we are much more flexible when using long style air induction tips, or a combination of both. You know, we have multiple nozzle holders. That means, okay, we can run, if we want to go finer, we can run an IDK, IDKT, and for windy conditions, for a really good penetration, we use the ID series.
Jürgen?
Yes?
There are 2 questions.
Yeah.
First, from Maris from Latvia, or there's a country with a lot of seashore line.
Yeah.
Maris is asking for what's the biggest advantage of XDT nozzles, which you mentioned, and why would we recommend XDT? Maybe it's good to mention it here when you compare IDK and ID3, and what XDTs actually add on. Yes.
XDT will be a topic in a few slides. I will like to postpone these questions when we come to XDT, and then I will try to sort it, because we have more and more nozzle types in our portfolio. Please let me postpone these questions to compare ID and the added value of a new XDT series.
Okay, and thank you for. And then next question, I think it's from the Isles, I think, because they don't use the 90% drift classes in UK or Ireland. They don't use it. And Harry
they have the star rating. Yeah.
Yes, and he asked, what's this 90% reduction defined? And maybe it's good to mention here.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Because we always thinking JKI based in Germany, many countries are having this JKI system. But over there in the UK, you have this LIRAP star system, and roughly 90% is comparable to 4-star. So this is roughly a 4-star rating. The 4-star is the 90, the 3-star is roughly the 75. This is comparable. So it's a 4-star rating. Sorry, I didn't mention that, but thank you for this question. 4-star is like a 90%. Let's put it like this.
Thank you.
Okay, today we talk about ID3 series. It's the 3rd generation of ID nozzles, of the long style ones. They are a bit shorter as the previous series, and this is the only one available. I often like to talk only about ID series, and then some customers ask, okay, you mean the ID3? I said, yes, this is the only one available, because this was the first one. Then we had some IDNs with a white stripe on the side for higher drift reduction. And since years, I think it's 7-8 years now, we are talking about the ID series. We improved it. It's also very easy to take apart. This was not with the 1st generation. And now what I already mentioned, this one is a really good one when you have a lot of open waters, when you have real windy conditions, you need to spray in these windy conditions. And also a really good penetration into quite dense tops. And like 90% or 4-star, for instance, we will reach for many countries with a wide range of ID types. So with JKI Germany, for the purple one, for the blue, the red, and the brown one, we will reach this 4-star or 90% up to 2.5 or 3 bar. Of course, you have to look into your national list, because they are similar, but not all the same. I know in Czechia, there is a list based on JKI and also on LIRAP. So this is generally a huge benefit. If you have regulations and farmers need to spray in real windy conditions, the ID or ID3 is the best one in that matter. Really robust also in terms of clogging, and also in terms of wear. You can cover quite a lot of hectares with the ID series nozzles. 0, 8 and 10. 10 is new. They are not rated in many countries because the numbers are just not that high, because all those ratings means also an investment into this analysis. So we decided not to rate 0, 8 or 10 type nozzles. IDK, compact air induction, which is similar to other ones, and our IDK, which means Injektordüse kurz, air induction tips on a short design. It's our most sold nozzle globally. Because we can run these nozzles also with older sprayers, with centrifugal pumps, which are not able to run that high pressure. And we have a really good reduction of drift up to 3 bar. The ideal pressure is 2 to 4. Even in real windy conditions, you can go down to 1.5 bar, but roughly 2.5, 3 bar is a real good pressure to run those nozzles. But as I mentioned some slides before, if you want to go faster with a modern sprayer and you're not able to shift on the go with a multiple nozzle body to change from, let's say, purple to blue and to red, if you're not able to do this, the flexibility is limited with those compact air induction tips. And often we get the questions, in your catalog, I can see some IDKN. Normally, I always sell IDK. What is the real difference? Should I sell IDKN? And why did you develop this nozzle? Generally, the whole series is called IDK. And over here in Germany and in many countries, based on JKI, based on the national lists, we have a reduction of 90% and normally 1 bar of the brown one, of this one, 90%, and the gray one. The gray one is missing here in this picture. And then for several countries, the red one and the blue one, it's a real common size, and we couldn't reach the high reduction. If you have no regulations, don't care about IDKN, but in more and more countries, we have those strict regulations. And to fulfill with an air induction tip compact design, we designed the IDK N. We can also say N like 90. In red and also in blue, and we are working on an 025. We are working on an 025 IDKN. It's not done yet, and it's quite a challenge to design that nozzles. We tried several times, did measurements, and then we cross distribution was not okay. Redesign. So since roughly 3 or 4 years, we're trying to design also a 25, a purple one, IDKN. The reason is drift reduction. If you have no regulations, don't sell these nozzles, don't recommend. But in many countries, it's a real common one for a common 03 and 04 size. So that's the main difference between IDK and IDKN. And finally, the technical reason, it's a change on the mouthpiece, that this nozzle is able to spray with 1 bar. It's mentioned here, because this is always the challenge, to have a good spray pattern, a full spray pattern, and a good cross distribution with very low pressure. This is not always so easy to get, and that's also based on a long time of experience and knowledge how to design a nozzle to spray with a good spray pattern, with a good cross distribution at low end pressure. And this is why also Lechler has a long list and a wide variety of drift-reduced nozzles, also in smaller sizes. So coming from IDK, IDKN to one of our very common nozzles. It's kind of a bestseller over the last years. It's a compact air induction twin nozzle. We really could sell and could convince many customers to use those nozzles with a really good feedback. It's common, it's well known, because we have a really good coverage, improved coverage, reduced spray shadow, and if it's needed, From country to country, we can reach up to this 4-star or 90% with common sizes, even small ones. Even the purple one, the blue one, up to 0.6, we can reach up to 90% reduction, of course, depending on the countryside regulation. The limit, yes.
I'm sorry, but maybe here is to the point to this slide. Stefan is asking what is the purpose of a 1 bar homologation, while many sprayers are not able to spray as low as 1 bar.
Yes. I will explain to him. Finally, the limit, and always when we get some complaints about IDKT, is okay. The nozzle tends to clog here, and if I run an 0.3 nozzle, often the farmers are thinking, yes, at the low end we have 2 times 0.15, and this is not wrong. This is wrong. Sorry, this is not correct. This is wrong. So it's always metered on the top end. There's the dosing orifice, and on the bottom end we have always more than half of the size on the mouthpiece. So it's roughly 0.2 with an 0.4 nozzles is roughly 2 times 0.3 at the bottom end of the IDKT. But our recommendation, if farmers have a lot of particles in the water, always the pressure filter on the pressure side, not the nozzle strainer, not this one here. The pressure filter should be used as 80 mesh. This is a yellow one, 80 mesh. If they have not the best water quality, especially if they have 0.4 nozzles down to 0.3 and the really small ones, to really use an 80 mesh pressure filter. The nozzle strainer is always recommended as a standard, a blue one, because there's no really filtering surface with the nozzle strainer. And the question I will answer now, why is there approvals with just 1 bar? With a compact nozzle design, the nozzles are designed like that, they are able to spray at 1 bar. And many sprayers, normally all sprayers, are able to run this really low pressure, because the diaphragm opens at 0.5 bar, 0.5 bar, half bar, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, they're opening. And of course, this is a really low pressure. And for this reason, for instance, in the Netherlands, which have very strict regulation, they are now skipped all the drift approvals from 1 to 2 bar. And the regulations are there. Only nozzles which have the regulations at 2 bar or higher are commonly in use. So it's not allowed to use any more IDK and IDKT nozzles with a drift reduction of 90% at this very low end, because many farmers were not spraying at 1 bar. They're using 2 or 3 or 4. They didn't care. And so they made these regulations more strict in the Netherlands, which has many open waters, many channels and very strict regulations. But the nozzles are spraying. They are able to spray. This is firstly checked when we send out nozzles. Are they able to spray at 1 bar? And if not, you have to increase the pressure till you have a really good cross distribution. And with the ID, with the long style, of course, this reduction, and this is depending on the design, is reached at 2 bar or higher. So every sprayer should handle the 2 bar spray pressure at the low end.
Thank you again. But there are two more questions, if you let, regarding IDK specifically. Can we?
Yeah.
One is from Dirk van Klemmen about what's the difference in drift reduction between IDKC and IDK of POM. Is there any?
Good question. Good question. Yes, I didn't mention that because sometimes you see here the IDKC in ceramic, here the brown one. They have a different rating than a plastic version. Here you see the plastic version. The reason for this measuring system is really sensitive. And if you measure a nozzle and it's reaching 89.5% reduction it's not rated 90%. And this sometimes can happen. Sometimes it's with ceramic that we are rated lower, or sometimes it's happening with POM, with plastic, that we are rated lower, and we have not the same result. And there's no real a guideline or that you can say ceramic is always better or worse. It really varies from nozzle type to nozzle type. And the reason is the system on these measurements are so sensitive. And if you reach 90%, you need to have 90% or more. And to come into the 75 classes, it's 75 to 89.9. So then you are in the 75% class, or which means three-star rating for the UK. So you have to you need to have a closer look when talking about drift reduction and your national list. The second question, Jan?
Yes, that second question, I think I can answer to let your voice to release a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
It's an easier one for me. Pavel is asking, is there, a good question, is there any IDK or IDKT of 0.8 capacity? It's a good question because we only show here the biggest to be gray one, which is 0.6, because these are most common. However, over the recent years, we have added the 0.8 and even 10 capacity. 0.8 is white, and 10 is light blue, not deep blue, but light blue. And both these compact nozzles are available already on the 0.8 and 10 capacities, but only of POM, not ceramic at this moment. So this is good, Pavel, that you asked. Thank you, because you could get such an impression that they aren't available, but they are now available from both for IDK and IDKT as well.
Yes. I mentioned it on top. And there's already too much notes on this slide. As you see, it's new, mentioned here on top, but it's not on the picture. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, but Pavel asked this question before this slide was shown. That's why.
Okay.
He, of course, could read. And then Ruth van den Helden asked yet another question, if I can ask you.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. He said he has to go. So he said thank you, and he has to go. So I didn't read that at first. Sorry, this is not the question.
One thing I would like to mention and to talk with you, it's when we talk about mounted sprayers. Still in several countries, many of the sprayers are mounted types. So the boom is quite close to the tank, to the frame, and there's a special regulation. If we run really on higher crops with a higher boom, it can happen that the spray pattern of the center nozzle, we talk about the center nozzles, normally 6 pieces in the center, you can exchange, of course, with the same flow rate. If you run an IDKT here, an 04, and then in the center, you are really able to mount straight down IDK ends with the same capacity to avoid that this twin fan pattern is hitting a boom structure or hoses or the frame here. And what also you can do, or your customers can do, not with this sprayer here, they can also, if possible, to twist a little bit the center section of the piping, to turn a little bit the nozzle, like I did with this picture on the right-hand side, that it sprays a bit more down. I try to draw it like this, so like this one, to not hitting the center tank, and then the liquid is dripping off. So this is a matter with mounted sprayers, if the center is very close there. So this is possible, also officially allowed from the authorities here in Germany. With trail sprayers and parallelogram, it's not an issue. Just one slide about the coverage on the back side of the plants. Many customers using IDKT already, and they say, I have a really good coverage, especially on the back side. Rückseite means the back side, so we're going this way, and then we really have a spray pattern going this way, continuing, and then we have a really good hit on the back side of the plant, as you can see here with the IDKT. Also in terms of herbicide spraying on soil clods, really it's a good one to avoid spray shadow and hit all the small little weeds out in the field. So now it's your turn, and I would like to know what is common as a spraying speed in your area. You know, an old style of tractor meter, 6 kilometer, or 7 or 11 or 15 or 19. What is common in your area? And for this reason, I prepared a second survey. Jump off once again into Teams, and we'll start this survey in a second. So, yeah, the next one will be, what is the common speed when applying plant protection products in your area? So I started it now. Please take part. And I will vote for 8 to 10 kilometers. What is common in your area? So please try to answer. Yeah, it's interesting. Quite 30%, no, even now 39. So this seems that we have also many customers from Eastern Europe, from the UK, where I know they're going faster. So yesterday evening we had a webinar for the German farmers, and there were a lot of smaller farmers. The main share was 5 to 8, which is a common speed on the smaller farms. And you see here we have 39, 10 to 15, 26, 8 to 12, which is a common speed in my eyes. And some say even up to 20 kilometers, we are applying our plant protection products. So thank you for taking part. Interesting result is displayed in the chat box. We'll have a few more slides till the break. So let's continue. Thank you. And when going fast with your sprayer, it can happen that we have an increase of spray shadow. And that's why we designed this IDTA nozzle. It's not new anymore. It's really established now in several markets, and a lot of farmers really coming back with a nice, good feedback. They say it's a good nozzle. I can go fast and really avoid spray shadow when going 50K or even faster. The benefit, because it's a long style nozzle, we can also go down with the pressure in real windy conditions. The recommendation is from 3 to 6 bar. And I'm offset from our literature that it's mentioned 4 to 8 bar, but my experience shows me that 3 to 6 is a real good range. And we always claiming this nozzle is the first real asymmetric twin fan nozzle. Why we are talking about the first real asymmetric nozzles? Because there are other manufacturers, they claim we have an asymmetric nozzle which is spraying 10 to, let's use green, I like green more, 10 to 50. There's one of the competitors. We really designed it 30 to 50 for several reasons. If you go fast, if you really travel fast, some of the liquids from the front spray jet, from the front spray angle, they are transferred to the back. So when you go 10, 15 or even faster, that's we spray a higher volume to the front. This is one reason of the real asymmetric claim here. And also the direction of travel and the distance of travel with a front jet, front fan is a lot shorter with asymmetric nozzles than with the back one. You know, this is much longer here, the distance of travel. Competitors do not the same as we do here. We have a spray angle of 120 degrees at the front. So finally it ends up here. Good overlap and no problem when spraying the field boundary, the field border. And the spray jet to the back, which is traveling a longer distance, has a more narrow angle and ends at the same position. So this is really unique. No other manufacturer has this kind of design, and our engineers did a real good job when designing this concept. We worked together, and finally it was also not so easy to design this nozzle with a proper flow rate, 60 to 40 for several sizes. And as I already mentioned, my experience, really a good pressure, 3 to 6 bar. You can run this nozzle, of course, at 8 bar, but so 3, 4, 5 is a real good pressure with IDTA. And also we received several medals here, awards at several shows for this IDTA. It's only made in ceramic. You cannot choose. There's no material questions to select. But there's 2 reasons for this. Often we get the questions, are you designing an IDTA in the future also in POM in plastic? We will not. It's not planned for 2 reasons. Because here we have a little bit bigger picture. It's a nozzle in cap design. So it's quite a huge volume, of material. And this means in the production process, a huge volume means heat. So to gain a real high precision, we need to produce this mouthpiece separate. And if we would do a plastic version, there would be no real benefit in production costs. So finally, it would be not really cheaper. And the second and the main reason is why doing this only in ceramic. If we push in liquid into our nozzle body, and then we have to move the liquid in an angle 30 degrees to the front and 50 to the back, there is quite a high wear, or not a high wear, but a higher wear when there would be the mouthpiece made of plastic. So the spray area, the hectare to spray with a plastic IDTA would be not big enough, we think. So that's why we designed this nozzle only in ceramic for these 2 reasons. It's not planned to do it in plastic in the near future. Installed often on self-propelled sprayers like here. And of course, it's easy to take apart, and also rated 3, 4 star, 90% in several countries. It took us a bit of time, but finally we could get this reduction for the IDTA. And now we are coming to the challenge of herbicide drift. We're coming to a special type of nozzles. And in many countries, like in Germany, I know the recommendation in Denmark for Boxer, which is a common soil herbicide. Often the authorities claim, okay, you should have a 90% reduction. Here in Germany, it's mandatory. You're only allowed to spray these type of soil herbicides, which is clomazone, Boxer, prosulfocarb, and this is Stomp, the yellow one. We need to spray it with 90% reduction on the whole field, And I know from Denmark, it's also recommended to use really coarse droplets to avoid drift. And this is not only a challenge in Denmark or in Germany, it's also a challenge in the US. And now this slide is coming again. This was planned for this position. You see here, injured soybeans, 1.4 million hectares in the US. You use a picture or a research from 2017 growing season. So a huge problem of drifting dicamba, which is an old style herbicide, often mixed there with glyphosate, sprayed in corn, and then traveled due to too fine spray into soybeans, and then it looks like this. Healthy soybeans sprayed with the wrong nozzle. They didn't care about drift, using a standard flat fan or a DG and a pre-orify, and not using a proper tip. A huge topic also in the US, a huge topic globally to avoid herbicide drift into neighboring fields, even not having these drift reduction regulations. And when we talk to the chemical industry, you can really feel there's a real pressure there in their box to avoid the drift, to not losing the approvals of those mainly soil chemicals we're talking about. And this was the reason to design, together with the company Syngenta, this pre-emerge or Syngenta nozzle called, the first one with 90% and even 95% drift reduction, which would be 5 stars. There is no 5-star, but it really avoids drift completely. It was designed years ago, and it looks like that. It's a coarse spray pattern, and it sprays kind of a fertilizer, like our FD nozzle. Really coarse spectra, but a very good distribution on the field. And it works pretty good on lighter soils. You see here, there are no clots at all. A little one here, but it's more a light soil here. And the reason for this 95% reduction is a extra coarse spectra, and a real major reduction of the fine droplets. Picture speaks for itself. Comparable an 05 ID series, ID 05, compared to this pre-emerge or Syngenta nozzle as an 05 type. But what we discovered over the years, if we run those nozzles in potatoes, this herbicide Boxer, prosulfocarb, is also used a lot on potatoes. Clomazone is used a lot on vegetable farms. If you go this way, everything's fine. But if you go across the ridges, you have coverage on the front, on the top, but not on the back side of the ridges here, on the dams. Also, when having real heavy soils, heavy clay soils, and little grasses are standing here, we have here and there spray shadows. And this leads us to the development of this, I call it a special one, XDT. And now coming back to the question which we were asked, what is the extra benefit of XDT on top of the current IDTA? You see the naming, XDT means Extreme Drift Reduction Twin. And this is a solution if we have these, I would say, difficult soil herbicides and farmers need to go in the autumn or in the springtime in real windy conditions. And they say, okay, I need a proper nozzle with real coarse drops, soil-based herbicides. And some also started to use these XDTs in systemic fungicides. For contact products, it's not a solution. So this is also, it's important, it's not a one and only solution. It's a special design for an extreme drift reduction, also to go fast with a self-propelled one and to avoid really drift almost at all. It took us a bit to produce it. We had several challenges to overcome, to solve, and now it's available in these three colors. Brown, red is already delivered. Blue is now on the shelf in a week, and it will be a complete series of this new type XDT. Complete range, 02 up to 06. And as I already mentioned, it will be for pre and early post-emerge based applications, soil-based applications. And we tried also some first application with really systemic fungicide. It will also work in liquid fertilizer, but of course, there's other ones which are specially designed for liquid fertilizer. Expected will be a 95 and a 90% or a 4 to 5 star reduction for many, many countries. It's coarse. It's even ultra coarse at a low end pressure. And to have a look to a spray pattern, I press here this button. Normally it should work. It's a short video out of our laboratory. Yeah, here it comes. There's no pressure mentioned here, but this is at low end pressure, I guess 2 bar here. And we really avoid almost completely the fine spectra. The first impression, it's a real coarse spectra, but all the research and the results shown that the efficacy is real good when talking soil-based herbicide for a pre-emerge, early post-emerge, and some systemic trials were also done. So, and one of the last slides before our coffee break. The reason here for this high reduction and the safe application, you really can see here when comparing an 05 ID nozzle, is this one 5 bar. The fine droplets, these really fine ones with 0.1 millimeter, the fine spectra, and this is the major spectra which creates drift. It sounds very little, 1.5%. With 8 bar, it's 3.4% with the ID, which is a coarse nozzle. And with the Syngenta, with the pre-emerge, and with the new XDT measured as an 04 size, we really cut down this to 0.2, and with the new XDT, even lower. And this makes us successfully to really avoid drift almost at all, to be on the safe side when going in real windy conditions, once again with herbicide, when herbicide applications. It runs also well with PWM, we will see on the second half. That's how it looks like on the field. These were trials. Systemic product here in wheat in really windy condition. But once again, it's a special one. It's not a one and only solution. It will be an additional nozzle on the boom for a special type of applications. And as we have now three main nozzle types as twin fan nozzle, we also have a short video. We will not have a look now, but just go to YouTube, to our Lechler channel, and then you can show to your customers or have a look yourself about the difference, about the positioning of IDKT, IDTA, and XDT. And simply done, we say, okay, up to 10K, and on a normal farm, this is fine. Going more than 10K, IDTA, and if you really have special applications and you want to reach 90 or 95%, XDT is the solution, to have it in short words. Just go there, have a look to this video. And there are also some questions in the chat we may answer now before continuing the second half. One, Stefan was asking, okay, is there really farmers spraying at 8 bars? And it's not common to reach 8 bars, but modern sprayers are able to. So often they spray 5 to 6 bars when going faster. So not with centrifugal pumps are doing hard to reach this high level, but with piston diaphragm pumps, it's able to. And more than 8 bars on field crops, it's not common. And Ain Robertson is asking, nozzle suitable for PWM. I would like to postpone this. We will talk about PWM in some minutes. And Edgar is asking, how much is maximum wind speed for XDT? In many countries, there's a limit of 5 meters per second, like 5 meters, a handful. But if you look to the droplet specters, you can go with XDT, I would say at 7 meters. 8 meters, which is a really strong wind. If you may have experience with our pocket wind, you know, the pocket wind, it's kind of a weather station for the pocket. It's a wind meter, and if you measure 5-6 meters, it's already a really strong wind. But you can go, and even farmers sprayed at really windy conditions. They said, okay, I've seen no real drift with the XDT. But once again, it's not a universal nozzle. It's a special one to add on to our existing portfolio. And Jerome, our colleague, yes, he asked IDKT and IDTA, what is the limit? As I mentioned already, up to 10, some go 11 with IDKT. Also, some go 12, but somewhere there between 10 and 12, farmers switching to the asymmetric one and using the IDTA with a more flat angle to the back end to avoid spray shadow on the backside of the plant. Jerome, yes, Jerome, hello. XDT is of course planned for the DRD listing in the future, and we are working heavily on the JKI approval. The pity is we have to do field measurements because their wind tunnel is not able. And step by step, of course, it will be at JKI, it will be at DRD, it will be at LIRAP, and so on. We're heavily working on this. And now on point, I guess it's Richard or Dawn. Do other nozzle manufacturers use POM for their plastic nozzles? And why do Lechler choose this type of plastic? Jan, you had been with the other manufacturer, and they always claim they use a special type of material. But as we know, all use POM. All use POM, which is polyoxymethylene or polymer. So the quality of the material, I would say, is on all nozzle manufacturers when it comes to POM, it's all the same. We did research, of course, and we analyzed competitor nozzles. but they all made of the same material, because POM, it's quite good to work with injection molding and it lasts long. Also for industrial parts, if we talk gear wheels and so on, often they made of POM because they do not shrink when cooling down. And if you want to have a double lifetime, you have to go to ceramic, because this is about double the lifetime, but POM is comparable with all manufacturers. And jumping into where do I find all this information? I will skip that for the moment. We will go to our website at the end of the webinar, and let's quickly talk about fence row spraying, about field border spraying. Is this okay? I know in many countries to use a fence row nozzle or a border nozzle, it's not common. It's not in use. But in other countries, let's take red, in other countries, like the Netherlands, they are quite strict. It's mandatory to really use a border nozzle, a fence row nozzle. It's mandatory to have it on all sprayer. And of course, what happens when you are spraying, that we always, even with the RTK, we have an overspray. That means we have our boom. This is the second last nozzle, and this is the last nozzle, and we have an overspray here at this position. Of course, we need this overspray if we turn around and coming back and spraying this way, we have an overlap, and when coming back, then we have finally the full width of the boom, of the working width. But this leads us that when we spray here, and then we have especially with high boom, we have an overspray always to the neighboring field or into a buffer zone, which is often not allowed. And you're just wasting chemical as well. And for many countries, as I said, it's not mandatory, it's not common, but it's so easy to install a fence row nozzle or a border nozzle to have really 100% dosification till close to the field boundary and not having this overspray. And it will be more and more regulation, I guess, also in some areas now down here in Germany, we need to have a border nozzles on the sprayer for protection of the environment. There's some special regulations coming up over the last years. With Lechler, if your customer's asking for, it's always the same color. That means if you're running a red ID nozzles, for instance, you're choosing a red long style IS. IS means Injektor Schrägstrahldüse. This is a very complicated word to translate. Just have in your mind long style ID, red to red. And if we talk about a compact one, blue to blue or also red to red. And what we also do in our factory, because the working width compared the regular one has a working width of this dimension of this width. The border nozzle has a smaller working width, and we already adapting the flow to this smaller working width. You see on this brown one, a light brown, a light blue. Also on the long style, it's the same. There is a different orifice mounted, and we consider already this smaller stripe of the border nozzles. So you can run really always same color as the regular nozzle. If some of your customers wants to retrofit a sprayer, this is also possible with us. We designed called it a border nozzle kit, an electric border nozzle kit to retrofit also on existing sprayers, and it's available with accessories, and several customers have this kit already in their shops or on their shelf. It really works really reliable because it's not a solenoid, it's a ball valve. It's installed like this. We collect the liquid from the last nozzle body. It's transferred inside here, and then the ball valve just tells, okay, normal nozzle or border nozzle. Good to retrofit also on older sprayers as a border nozzle valve. Now in the second half, I already mentioned, let's talk a bit more about general spraying topics, PWM, nozzle spacing. And first, I want to share with you also my thoughts about plant protection 2.30, or let's call it 3.30, or whatever in modern language. It could be 4.0. It doesn't care. And there's several words or naming going around in literature, on webinars, on shows, and we talk about spot spraying, or we talk about pet spraying and row spraying, drone spraying, which we'll not talk about today, but also we as Lechler, of course, we have an eye and we do research how to apply in a proper way with drones. Robot spraying, like that means autonomous vehicles going on the field. To sort it out a little bit, I made this research in Google. It's a German application, car or maps to apply plant protection material. And this was the result. I did it a few days ago. You get several results about some application maps. And my personal questions, how long are we talking about precision farming? Not only 1 year or 2 years, I would say it's more 20 to 30 years we're talking about application maps. And of course, farmers started to do this with a lot of enthusiasm, and they say, yeah, I have to do this, and I will invest into sensors, I will invest into programs, into monitors, into a lot of stuff. And finally, several farmers, they stopped it because they couldn't see any benefit on the bottom line. The bottom line calculation finally didn't perform, and they said, yeah, I invested so much time and couldn't see really finally a result. There was a often complicated data transfer, and of course, don't get me wrong, we are improving this. And now we have really sprayers, seeders, which are able to dose more here on this red zone and dose less here, and maybe do a medium dose in here. But we need to consider, if we have a very, very good solution of, let's say, 1 meter, this is possible even smaller with drones, 1 meter to 1 meter, and our equipment is able to apply on 30 meter, like a big boom sprayer. It makes no sense to have a resolution of 1 meter if finally boom sprayer is only able to make 30 meter sections. Or a fertilizer spreader, a 30 meter fertilizer spreader sprays 30 meter to the left side and 30 meter to the right side, and finally with the overlap. So it's really a kind of a rough tool. So this is a bit of my personal opinion. Companies promising a lot, okay, you can do this and this and this and this, and you have so much high savings, but farmers report to me on the bottom line often it's not a black figure, it's more a red figure. And I take the last topic here. If we talk about these systems, we have a much higher complexity out in on the daily farming. So also people need to be able to handle all these complex applications, mappings, monitors, and so on. If we talk about plant protection, we talk about spot spraying or patch spraying. And a patch can be 1 hectare. A patch or a spot can be 100 square meter. And of course, as higher we want to have savings, that okay, we talk about savings of 50%, savings of 70%. The spots has to be smaller and smaller to reach this very high saving. But then the machinery is getting really complex and really expensive. And maybe it's okay if we talk about spots which are 3 to 3 meter. So this can be fulfilled with a standard section control sprayer, that we have a section of 3 meter and we tell the sprayer via a map, and the map is done by a drone or by a sensor, okay, 3 by 3 meter, this is quite okay to fulfill, and it doesn't need a really very expensive and complicated technology on the sprayer. Of course, times is changing and we're getting more and more technology, but don't forget it's getting very complex. Spot spraying down to 10 to 10 centimeters or even smaller is possible today, but once again, what is the investment to be done or to needed, and then finally the bottom line result. what we are talking about over the last years is more and more the long spot. I called it the long spot. It's a banding of chemicals, of course, into row crops, because banding in cereals is done here and there with a banding of seed, but mainly it's done in row crops. That means corn, sugar beets, sunflowers, depending on the region where you are growing or where you are farming. And then row spraying, it's not a new story. Like if you talk to older farmers in the 70s or 80s, it was very common to have a small banding nozzle behind the seeder running, spraying herbicide when planting the sugar beets, for instance. But then with more and more capacity of the sprayer, row spraying or banding was not used so much anymore. But it's recovering, it's coming back. And of course, it's quite easy to targeting the road if you combine a mechanical weeder, a mechanical harrow with a band spraying nozzle. The capacity is not really high. You cannot go so fast. Dust is kind of an issue. But this is quite easy to do. You have a front tank or you have a pull type one, and then you can combine mechanical weeding and band spray. And also over the last years, several manufacturers, not only this one from Bavaria, also others, they try to hit the rows with a regular field sprayer. And this farmer, he's in Bavaria, he's a very clever farmer, but the fields are very leveled. There is no hills, all their fields are really leveled there. And he always tells me when I talk to him, he said, I can do this on my farm. I can do this. He said, why are only you can do this? I said, yeah, his experience. His neighbor came to him and said, you can do this band spraying on sugar beets also on my fields. I also was seeding my sugar beets with RTK, with GPS, precise RTK. And then they moved his sprayer to his neighboring field, and then they discovered what also other guys did. In the center of the sprayer, they could hit really precise the rows. But then always when with the second pass of the seeder and with the third pass of the seeder, even with RTK, the rows were moving a little bit. And then with a band in sugar beets of, let's say, 15 centimeter or 20 centimeter, it's quite a challenge to targeting this band with a regular sprayer onto the row. And then it ended up that on his neighboring field, due to the drift of the seeder, it wasn't possible to really target here on the outside of the boom the sugar beet rows. And it only works out if you have a second receiver on your seeder, not on the sprayer as well, maybe in the future. And all the manufacturers are working on systems that you put the camera from the harrow, which are used on a harrow, to put those cameras also on the boom of the sprayer and then steer the wheels to follow the rows. But the most important thing is planting, is seeding, and you need to have a guidance also on the seeder, and you need to have properly mounted the seeder to the tractor that it's not moving at all, to really have exact row distance on the second, on the third, on the fourth pass of the planting process. So it's also quite challenging and difficult, and it's not so easy just to mount a nozzle into a sprayer and then it's done. And then, yes.
I thought you were over this section, but it's still one question regarding border nozzle kit.
Yes. Jan, let's answer this question, because we are now on a totally different topic. Let's move and postpone this to the end, please.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. When talking banding, and if we talk about a real spot sprayer, it's getting very, very special. And this is a picture from a manufacturer. This manufacturer is called Rumex. This is a picture, you know, from Amazone, and they call it Ama Select Spot. But what they're doing here, I would say, it's a huge spot. You know, it's more, we call it often a patch, but internationally it's a huge spot. You know, it's not a single plant spraying. It's more a huge spot they are doing here, which is not so difficult. You're uploading a map, And then you're also using standard nozzles on a boom sprayer, and you use a single nozzle control to run those. I would say here, if you, for instance, this is like 1 meter wide or 1.5 meter wide, 1.5 to 1.5. This is not such a very huge challenge. This can be done with a single nozzle control sprayer and regular nozzles. And if we come to the long spots, to the banding, we from Lechler also designing since some years a new type of nozzle series, which now will be available this year in one size. It will be the 015 named ARE. ARE means it's a pre-orify, anti-drift called a pre-orify designed, R like row, and of course it's an even spray design. It's an even spray design, and it's not so easy to fulfill all the mandatory values with just a 30-degree angle. But we decided to use to design this nozzle with a 30-degree angle here on top, because then we can reach on the one hand side quite narrow bands, high savings, like with 30 centimeter. Or we will run a traditional boom sprayer at close to 50 centimeter. We have a 25 centimeter band, which is like 1/3 on a common row spacing of corn. So often we have 75% corn, and then we can run on top with a normal distance, the 30-degree spray pattern, and we can save up to 66% of our chemicals. For the long spots, I call it here, 30-degree ARE. It will be a complete series from the very, very small 0067 up to 03. But available for this year, spring 25, it will be just in marks, the 015, and the other types will follow step by step. And of course, we are expecting and we are working on the 90% or 4-star rating also for this type of nozzle. ARE, wrench size 10 millimeter, it will be. Also our app, maybe you're familiar already with our app. This is now a screenshot from a German slide, and the app is a really good helper if you go to field crops and there's the function banding, and so it's really easy, and because there are a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to band spraying. And simply explained, you put a liter hectare rate, what you would normally spray when doing a normal field application, of course speed, then the row spacing, this is the row spacing, the row is here, and then this is the band width. So this is the band width, a narrow one, depending on, of course, on the spray height, or a wider band. And finally, calculator is doing 20 centimeter out of 50 centimeter row spacing. So 2/5 out of 200 liter. Finally, we need 80 liters of volume per hectare. Sorry, this is a good helper when talking about band spraying and selecting the right nozzle size. I mentioned already single nozzle control, patch spraying or big spots. We don't need special nozzles. We can do this with our common IDK, for instance, or anti-drift 120 or 90-degree nozzle when it comes to real huge, bigger spots. But then, of course, when we talk about the real spot sprayer, just one example of this one, this spot sprayer does have a nozzle spacing of 4 centimeter. And they want to have the highest precision and the highest savings. But of course, this is a 6-digit number you need to invest for such a sprayer. It was developed for spraying on grassland for the broadleaf wheat rumex, but they are also running this sprayer now in field crops like onions. And special sprayers, these real spot sprayers, let's put it this way, this manufacturer is called Rumex. There is Eco Robotics from France, or from Switzerland, French Swiss, and others coming up on the globe. Globally, there's a movement to design these special type of spot sprayers. And I mentioned here, yes, we need special nozzles for special sprayers. And that's why we are designed these very special type of nozzle. It's a standard flat fan with a very narrow angle of just 20 degrees and very small sizes here. And that's what they need with this very small row spacing. They need very small nozzles, special ones. And we designed this LS, Lechler spot nozzle, at the moment in the 005 size and the 02 size. And depending on the demand of the manufacturers, we will follow with more sizes. And why are farmers investing in such a spot sprayer? If I talk about more than 100,000 euro, I call it always, it's a problem solver. And we have huge problems, for instance, in areas where we grow a lot of onions, and the same farms often grow potatoes, and then they have to fight the volunteer potatoes in the onions. And it's almost impossible with chemicals, without killing the onions or with avoiding high stress of the onions, to kill the potatoes. You can do it with a mechanical weeder, but this is also quite difficult because they start to regrow. So farmers, especially like in the Netherlands, they investing in these spot sprayers to kill the volunteer potatoes. And farmers here in Germany or corporations, they buy these spot sprayers to kill the weed called the Rumex, a broadleaf weed on grassland, because it's forbidden to spray broadcast on many areas in Germany on grassland. So you cannot kill the Rumex with a regular field sprayer. And this was also the reason why these companies, they are close to the German Alps. You see the mountains in the back here. It's not a typical farming area. There's many grassland there. And there's another one, a competitor of this company. But the capacity of those sprayers is also really limited. That's why it's mainly only used in special crops like potatoes, like onions. Some try it in sugar beets, but the capacity, they can go 6 to 8 kilometers, but you see the working width. This one is a huge one. It's 9 meters and has a huge amount of nozzles on their sprayer. But often they are just 6 meters and then they're going 6 to 7 kilometers. So the capacity compared to a regular field sprayer is really limited. If you have any contact, you are well informed about the LS20 series designed for these type of applications. Now we're coming to another topic, and I have here a sewing machinery on this slide here. Sewing machinery, why that? Because we're talking about PWM. And in my eyes, PWM we can easily compare with a sewing machine because we have solenoid valves on each nozzle body here with this John Deere sprayer. Solenoid valves, John Deere calls it exact apply, a solenoid valve which opens with a high frequency the liquid flow. Up, open, close, open, close. That's why I like to compare this PWM, this pulse width modulation, with a sewing machine. And a big benefit you can also see here, compared to a standard dosification, the operator can say, okay, I have an IDTA nozzle on my sprayer. I have an IDTA nozzle on my sprayer. And I have good experience with the IDTA at 4 bar. And no matter how fast he is going, the boom always does have a pressure of 4 bar. Because it's often mentioned, PWM, you are able to control droplet size. It means you are able to control the pressure in your boom, and no matter you go slow or fast, you have the same spray pattern, finally the same droplet size. That's a big benefit of pulse width modulation. But of course, on the other hand side, it needs some investment, and also in the design, it's not so easy, and I would not say complicated, to have a solenoid valve every 50 or even every 25 centimeter on the sprayer. With other manufacturers, like with Agrar, with Horsch, all kind of offering now as an option those pulse width modulated regulation. And when we're talking PWM, one important wording is the duty cycle. What does mean duty cycle? If we talk about a regular sprayer, above 0.5 bar, the diaphragm opens, and then you have 100% spraying. And this is, of course, also you are able to do this with a PWM. You completely open, 100% open, always spraying. And then, for instance, if you're running an 06 nozzle on your sprayer, we use normally bigger nozzles with PWM, and then you're regulating always downwards, because 100% means 100% open. And then a good range is down to 50%. Duty cycle, we are down at a flow of 0.3. So we are running the 06 nozzle, this is the max, at 50% open. You can see it here, open, close, open, close. So logically, we are dosing a rate of 0.3 with the same nozzle, with the same pressure. And the limit is somewhere here at 30%, because if we go below 30%, also the distribution from 50 to 30 is affected depending on the type of size or nozzle you are using. So duty cycle always means the share of open flow. I like to compare today the pulse width modulation with a Vario or a CVT gearbox in a tractor, variable transmission. Because also another argument beside the constant pressure, that really with a wider boom, you know what happens. We have a high dose here, we have okay here, we have too less on the outside. So the curve control, the curve compensation is possible to have the same dosification, because these valves open more on the outside and close down at the inner side without any steps. Without any steps, really, it's a variable, and that's why I like to compare this pulse width modulation with a variable, a CVT gearbox in a tractor. But of course, this is only possible with a radius more than roughly 20 meters. If you really want to go around on a 90-degree corner with herbicide, also these systems are not able to compensate these 90% sharp turn. So constant pressure, curve condensation, but of course it needs investment. And the question is, does PWM really is requesting a special design of nozzles? And over the last years, and the systems are getting more and more common, I don't think all the sprayers in the future will have PWM, but step by step there will be a share of sprayers using those PWM systems. And what we know from the historical point of view, in the North American market, like with Case especially, with John Deere, the PWM is much more common, or was much more common over there, because they did not have pneumatic nozzle bodies like we have over here. You know, we have the multi-spray, the Vario Select, with the possibility of changing nozzles on the go with a pneumatic valve. They didn't have that option. So they went into PWM and mainly were using standard flat fan or pre-orify nozzles, which work perfect with PWM. Also the XDT, which is a pre-orify, works really good with PWM. But the big challenge in many, many countries and on a lot of farms, these nozzles have a very fine spray. So we have a huge drift problem when running these standard or pre-orify nozzles with PWM. So we as Lechler and other manufacturers as well, they try to analyze, or they analyzed, not tried, we really analyzed if Venturi nozzles, injection nozzles, work well with PWM. And the result out of this research is yes, they work better. Our nozzles, and I can speak for our nozzles, work better with PWM system than it was expected some years ago. XDT, I mentioned, works well. So Standard flat fan, also fertilizer ones, they really work really perfect, ideal for PWM, but especially with these ones, drift control is a big challenge, a big issue. Venturi nozzles, injection nozzles, like ID, especially IDTA, I really like IDTA when pulsing, you have very, very little drips and spits. That means out of the air intake can happen, and sometimes they spit a little bit. Or when you make a slow-mo video, you can see a little bit of dripping out on the front mouthpiece here. But when we do this on our test benches, we do not really see these volumes because they are so low. You can see them, yes, but they are so low, they do not affect really the distribution and the coverage. Double flat fan really works well. IDK, ID do it also, but especially double flat fan improve the length distribution in driving direction. In Germany and also now in Denmark, we have the regulation. If you have a 90% or let's say 4-star rated nozzle and you start to pulse, the drift reduction is reduced one step down, we call it, because we have seen in many analyses, also JKI, the official authority, they see an increasing spectra of the fine droplets when starting to pulse because of these pressure jumps inside the system. Why in some countries we have this step down regulation with PWM. So our recommendation for the future, use, for instance, an IDTA for a really good spray pattern with a PWM, and to reach the very high drift reduction, our new XDT series is also a solution for PWM operated sprayers. What's really needed, this is a screenshot of our app, at these PWM systems is a really good filtering and a proper flushing that's really needed, because I also heard about clogging issues and wear issues on these solenoids if there are too much particles sucked into the system. And so like with tractors, some like the variable gearbox, some like the power shift. So the variable is the PWM, and we will have a share of these in the future. And some farmers know I would say I will still use the power shift, which is a multiple nozzle body to change the nozzles on the go. There's a nice function of PWM to help you selecting the nozzle size. Have a look to our app, and finally you see the result as a duty cycle, and also the legend here tells you, okay, the proper duty cycle to select the proper nozzle. The result here is 06. You see here 180, 50 spacing 4 bar, and IDTA 06, for instance, at a 50 centimeter spacing. There's also a video you can have a look to. We will not do now because of timing, but also go to YouTube. There's a nice short video also in English language which explains the system, and also you can see our nozzle spraying with pulsing valves. So second last topic, we are already reaching 11:30. It seems it takes a little bit longer in English as in German. Thank you to still have you here. Now already the 2 hours which we announced are gone. We have 2 topics. One is the 25 to 50 centimeter spacing, pro and con. And the second will be, the last one will be close transfer with the Easy Connect system. So let's first talk about nozzle spacing. You see here a slide coming from Horsch. But 25 centimeter spacing, it wasn't developed from Horsch, because since I would say 20 years, other manufacturers, you see there, this one from Czechia, this one from the Netherlands, Daman, even another manufacturer, they are offering the 25 centimeter spacing. So it was not invented from Horsch, but new when discussing this topic is the 25 centimeter spacing with a better boom control, with a really improved boom control to be able to lower the boom even closer to the crop. As we talked and had a look to this slide at the first half, that a lot of the sprayers are running 75 centimeter or even 1 meter high boom. And with a better boom control, we can go really down to the 50 centimeter, or even if it's really running well, not to the 25. It's mentioned here 25, but the reality with a really good boom control is 40 to 30 centimeter. That's possible if the fields are on a good leveled and in a good condition with the active boom control of whatever manufacturer. I don't want to set one on to the front. It's really possible to lower the boom and then the travel distance of our droplets and the penetration is improved. The travel distance is shorter, the penetration is improved. And this is what we're talking about. We're not talking nozzle spacing, we're talking improved boom control. And there are always pros and cons. More and more manufacturers offer this, active boom control or fast reacting boom control. And this really helps to reduce drift, evaporation, and also improve penetration into the crop, if there's a crop standing, of course. And the modern technology, but this is for both, I should claim here for both, the modern sprayers, they are able to also change nozzles on the go. So we have always the optimal pressure depending on liter hectare rate and kilometer. This really, to be honest, has nothing to do with 25 spacing. This is just the type of equipment on the sprayer. And as we know from practical experience, some manufacturers are able really to go down to 40, down to 30 centimeters. And as I mentioned, nobody is really spraying at 25 centimeter above target. A benefit, if we have this 25 spacing and multiple nozzle on our sprayer, we can also work in a set of 2 nozzles or 3 nozzles parallel to follow the approvals if they are mandatory. And finally, also increase spraying capacity and use the best time for spraying if you really can go low with an improved boom control. But of course, if there are pros, there are also some limits or cons. And if we run a low liter hectare rate, nighttime spraying and just 100 liter, we are already using quite small nozzles. We're also using already 0.2 nozzles. And then if you would go to 25 spacing, this would mean a 0.1 nozzle, which is very, very sensitive in terms of clogging. So with low liter hectare rates and with slower speeds, it's really a limit and not possible to run the 25 centimeter spacing. And it's better to run at 50 spacing with a good boom control at 50 and a little bit lower. And in general, the same with PWM, if the nozzles are getting a little bit smaller, good filtration, that means at least an 80 mesh pressure filter, and good flushing and cleaning of the system is really important. Because I had some customers on the phone, they were complaining, they said, in the past I had 50 centimeter spacing, everything worked fine, I was running 0.4, 0.5 nozzles, now I changed to 25 spacing and I see more clogging, I see more issues with my nozzles. So, and this can happen if you really have not a proper filtering system and you forget to flush your sprayer when ending the spray job. And it's the same with sand particles, with low quality fertilizer, with generic cars, also with the small size nozzles, you can have issues with the 25 spacing more than with the 50 centimeter spacing. This is the backside of the page. So we talk about boom control. This is the core argumentation, boom control. And when we are able, with low volumes, not to use 50 centimeter, not to use 25 spacing, and running at 50, electron nozzles are tested at 50, of course, 50 to 50, but you can run them also at 40 centimeter height with a really good boom management system. So low rates, small speeds, good boom control. 50, of course, is possible. So down from 80 to 50 is possible, and even 40 is possible. But then, of course, if we run at 40 or lower, we really need the 25 spacing for a good an overlap. And then we can select both. We can run 120-degree nozzles, and we can run 90-degree nozzles. Both is possible. I personally like a bit more to do a setup with 120-degree nozzles, because you can run them on 50 spacing, and then if you go faster, you add another one. And then you, for instance, you run an IDKT 03 plus an IDK 03, or an IDTA 04 plus an ID nozzle. And we have some special ratings and special regulations. For instance, for the Netherlands, in the Netherlands with the 25 centimeter spacing, you are only allowed to use 90-degree nozzles to avoid the drift even more. And then for this reason, we have the IDK 90 there, or the anti-drift 90 for the regulations, especially for the Netherlands. Both fans are possible, 90-degree and 120-degree, also in a combination on a 25 centimeter spacing. So finally, once again, what we are talking about is an improved boom control and not the spacing of the nozzle. Jan, other questions in terms of spacing and PWM before jumping into the last topic of today's webinar?
Well, there are 3 unanswered questions. Maybe we can start with this border nozzle kit, or this we will keep to the end?
We'll keep to the end the border nozzle.
Okay. And then about spacing, yes, there's one question from Harry. Is there a proven benefit from using 25 centimeter over 50 centimeter nozzle spacing, or is it just a sales gimmick, like a sales trick? Maybe it's
there's a lot of marketing behind. Let's put it this way. It's not a trick or a gimmick. And it really, as we discussed, the improved boom management really avoids drift. We can really go fast, even with 10, 12, 15 kilometers, I can hear from customers, really with a constant 50 boom height, but they are able to go down to 40 or even 30 centimeter and spray even really in limited conditions. And it extends your spraying window. And once again, we're not talking 25 or 15, and there's no real benefit of the only or the other one. We're talking improved boom control. So we can see less drift. There's no real independent study to be on this side. There's no real independent study with a better yield or a higher yield when spraying 25 to 50 spacing. But what farmers telling to me when they're coming back and we're discussing is that we see a really, really good coverage. We're reducing a little bit our amount of pesticides. This is not a general recommendation, but they do, because they see when they spray with a low boom, a much better covering, because they are avoiding drift, they are avoiding evaporation, and they have also a really, really good penetration into dense crop without any air assistance. Because often they're comparing, if I need a good penetration, I have windy conditions, should I buy air-assisted sprayer, or will I buy 25 spacing and an improved boom control? And the more simple system is the improved boom control in my eyes. Hopefully I could answer his question.
It was very, very good, in my opinion. We should ask Harry. There's a question from Pavel regarding PWM frequency, the valve frequency.
Yeah.
The question is, there are different frequencies, obviously, on the market, and Pavel says that there is ones for 20 up to 100 hertz.
Yes.
And is is there any influence on results?
Yes.
That's a question.
Yeah.
His question is, what's the difference?
It's normally the frequency is set it ex factory. You see the source here. The source here is coming from Horsch, this graph, and they're using the Raven Hawkeye system with a 20 Hertz system. And when we're talking to Raven, they say, okay, our system is also able to increase the frequency, but this is normally factory set it. Because when we talk to our colleagues in Lechler Industry, they also we have pulse width modulated valves there, and they always telling, we did an internal course, they say, okay, as low as possible, because higher frequency means more opening and closing cycles, means also more wear, and so as low as possible. And when we're talking to customers, I do not see any issues when running 20 Hertz. When to consider, I jump a little bit front and back, when considering the 100 down to 50% duty cycle, because this is in connection when you are running very, very low duty cycles, which is not recommended from nobody, but if you're running very low duty cycles, like 30 Hertz, 30 means 30% duty cycle. Yeah, duty cycle, 1/3 open and 2/3 closed. And what happens, also that we have on the field, doesn't matter what nozzle you're using, we have very uneven distribution. And now some manufacturers, I know what he means, they say, okay, we have 100 Hertz pulsing system, but they're not running always 100 Hertz. They call it a pulse with frequency modulation. And one of these manufacturers is a retrofit kit, it's BB Leap. And also another one is Agrar. They are mentioning that they're always increasing the frequency when having small duty cycles. To be honest, I have no experience if this is really better than running a 20 Hertz or a 30 Hertz system. I have no experience there. Really, you have to ask the different manufacturers. Our experience and JKI experience, when they did measurements, it's really like we mentioned in our app. Down to 50, everything works well, no matter what frequency you have. Below 50, we should avoid because we could have gaps in distribution. Another one related to these two topics, Jan?
I think to some extent to overlapping from Stefan. I will read this question. You decide to answer now or later.
Yeah.
Many nozzle manufacturers are proposing 110 and 80 degrees nozzles, while Lechler has chosen 90 and 120 degrees fans.
Yes. We will answer this question in a minute after this last topic together with this border nozzle question. It's more a general one. Let's first talk about this last topic. Some guys need to leave, so let's finally close our last topic here and talk about Easy Connect. In several countries, sprayer operators are monitored. Like in Czech Republic, I know that the professional sprayer operators, they need to go to a blood test every year. And when we talk to chemical industry, they say when we apply for new chemicals, the user protection who could be in contact with a pure chemical, the challenges are higher and higher, getting higher and higher from year to year. That when we apply for a new substance, often everything works fine, but then it's kicked out because of the user protection, that these chemicals are easily penetrate in the skin of the human body, and on the long term, this is not so good for our human health. And then years back, the BASF company started to convince all other manufacturers for a new type of canister, for a new type of can for the plant protection products. And finally, the story behind Easy Connect is a new type of plug on the top of our chemical containers. And this plug has 3 parts, a dust cover, and then an outer part and an inner part. It's kind of a valve. And this is the website of easyconnect.tech. You see some more details. And now many of the common plant protection product producers, they are joining this EasyConnect group, and they are changing from step to step, year by year. It will take a few years. They are changing their chemical containers to this new cap. And then, of course, you can still use the traditional way, open the cap and put the chemicals into your induction hopper. But the target is to fill the sprayer without any contact to the pure chemical. And for this reason, of course, you need this cap on the canisters, and you need a kind of a coupler. We talk about a coupler. So this is the coupler here. Lechler is developing since 3 years. We also signed a contract, and we are part of the EasyConnect working group. And the reason for this, in the Netherlands, for instance, we're talking about that close transfer for liquid products will be mandatory for all sprayers from 2026 on. July 7, 26, it will be mandatory. Denmark is talking about, Germany is talking about, several countries are talking about 2030 to have it mandatory for liquid products. So how does it work? And before talking too much about the system in theoretical, on a theoretical view, we're jumping off once again to YouTube. And there's a video prepared from our colleague here about our coupler called XAMOUNT, which is mentioning exact amount to those liquid products. It's without any sound, this video, but let's have a look. And the reason is user protection, what I meant. This is one of the main reasons. And the second main reason is, we call it point sources. Point sources when filling the sprayer. You know, a can is tipped over and it's flushed down into the next open water. And then the sealing films on top of the cans, they cut it out and then the wind is blowing them away. So it's not only user, it's also a reason to prevent environmental pollution with pure chemicals. XAMOUNT at the moment is in development. It's not ready for sale. It will be available from next year on. And then you put the can on top of this device. And when designing this, hang on, a little bit back, there's a very simple display on top of the can, on top of the coupler. Here we go. And then you can put the mount inside. And for instance, you have a chemical which really sticks into the canister. You just press one button, and there's no complicated menu like we can see with competitors. This is the cans with this EasyConnect lid on top. Of course, protected against rough environment in agriculture. We need electricity with standard 12-volt plug. And what was always the target, I stop once again the video here, we need a really fast extraction of the chemicals. There's another system called EasyFlow on the market, which was developed from Bayer together with our competitor, with Agrar. Generally, it's a good system, but it's far too slow to extract the chemicals. And you see here with this EasyConnect and with our XAMOUNT, really air is coming in. And you see it's really fast. It's a 10-liter container here. It's really fast to extract this. Partial dosing, precise partial dosing was also very important. And we also fulfill, there's an ISO norm behind, we need to have a precision of 25 milliliters, which is not much. This is 1% of a 1 liter can, 2.5%, sorry, of a 1 liter can. So we will reach this accuracy. Cleaning is also improved. It's kind of a challenge with this lid inside the can. And as I mentioned, it's in development. You see some details inside. And of course, it's able to close. If you have a partial dosing, it's also able to close once again this top lid for the next load of the sprayer, if you want to have a partial dosing. Cleaning head is improved. It's also shown in the video. And that was a short overview about the XAMOUNT device. So the question is, why should I buy it? How can I sell it? It's available from next year on. Please get in touch with us. As I mentioned already, it's mandatory in the Netherlands. And if you want to have a closer look, talk to us, come and see and touch it on Agritechnica in Hanover in November 2025. So coming to the end, final recommendation. We talked in the first half about our well-known portfolio. And as you know, we always like to run the 2 nozzle strategy. But in the future, maybe we have to skip this. And I call it now a multi-nozzle strategy, not a 2 nozzle strategy. Because the 2 nozzle strategy works really fine, which is a combination of double flat fan and single jet for a good penetration and the windy condition. And the multi-strategy means we will add on another special nozzle for special circumstances. That means a fertilizer nozzle and the new developed XDT when we want to go on real windy conditions or we have regulation for this type of Glomazone boxer or other herbicides and don't have any issues with our neighbors. Daily helpers, just order them at us. We send them out for free. Spray tables as a sticker, and if not done yet, please download our app, which is a quite good app, we think, and we get good feedback from our customers. Second last slide, Jan. Summary, just quickly. Venturi nozzles are state of the art. Some new designs are in development, like the XDT. And we really can extend our spray windows compared to the old style flat fan or DG anti-drift nozzle. In many, many countries, the 5 meters per second are a limit, but with the new XDT, we are also able to step over this limit. We can reach high 3, 4 star, even 95% drift reduction for many, many countries. It's really, really important. So the multi-nozzle strategy I mentioned is a single, a twin, and additional, I would put it this way, a special type of nozzle. Really, really flexible. We are with a long style, but of course, farmers who want to run a more constant speed and lower pressure level with older sprayers, the wide common range IDK and IDKT will be available also on a long term. We talked a little bit about patch spraying, about spot spraying, and this very special machinery, and we just shared our ideas and thoughts about this 25 and 50 centimeter nozzle spacing, which is a new trend when it comes to boom controlled management. And so the last slide will be really this one, and then we will be open for your discussion. It will be the last survey for today's webinar. And this will be a survey, and we would like to get your feedback. We would like to get your feedback. If you like this webinar, please be honest. Don't just send us a nice feedback, but you didn't like it. So the last survey will be the question, how do you rate this webinar? So I need to load it. So I start it now, and please open your microphone if you would like to. And you have the chance now, and then step by step, we try to answer all the open questions. Yeah, thank you for your feedback. Yes, there were several really experienced guys we could see in the registration. 30% real good, 35% really very good. Thank you for this feedback. But please let us know, if you missed some. I think it's really from the timing, it's really the maximum. We are here now more than 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I try to skip here and there some topics, but we thought we have to address all the main ones. That's why we planned like this. Jan, could you follow me all the time, or did you fall asleep?
No, I followed you, of course. Why should I fall asleep? You're so interesting, so nice, so much information, good information. So nobody, I think, fell asleep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the feedback. Really good. And then now, step by step, we will answer all the open questions. So the first one was, Jan, about this border nozzle kit. What was the question there?
About the pipes diameters, because there's no information in the catalog. What pipes do we offer it for?
Yes.
Sizes.
We will quickly jump off, as I promised, to our website, where we have several information for you. I have to share my screen once again. I will share my screen, and then we will jump off to the Lechler website. And I always recommend go to on the main page. I have to close a few windows here. Now on the main page, we will select for English now. See, there is several languages available. Main pages are German and the English version of the German website. And then if we go in here, always press the menu button and we go to support. Then we have to select this agriculture. I always recommend to use the arrows. There are calculators, recommendations, all the ratings about drift reduction. And here we see assembly instruction, maintenance, for instance, about cleaning, how to properly clean nozzles, user manual of the pocket wind. And there is also the assembly about the border nozzle kit. I open now. First half is German. And second half is English. You see introduction. I know he means, I think these connectors, these green ones. And let me check. It's mentioned somewhere. You see here the pipe glands fit up to 1/2 inch or 22 millimeters. That's the basic in the set. And if you have a bigger dimension, I think you need to find some of these clamps. They are commonly used to fix hoses, hydraulic hoses, or hydraulic piping on agricultural equipment. We are also sourcing them.
Can you hear me, Jürgen?
I can hear you, yes.
1/2 inch is very, very small volume in the UK for sprayers. Most are on the 3/4 type boom.
Yeah.
So it's really not very good for the UK market, is a 1/2 inch boom.
Yeah. We also thought about.
I would say also probably most self-propelled sprayers today would be on minimum 3/4 type.
The question for us in the past, the demand for this device was mainly coming from Germany because there were those regulations. Yeah. Almost all sprayers are already equipped ex-factory in the Netherlands, for instance, with a border nozzle control. So the retrofit is more done on the older ones. And then finally we had to decide, okay, which one will be in the kit. And of course, then finally it will be a job of you as a dealer or the farmer itself to find some bigger clamps. This is not a big challenge.
It's already an expensive kit. So by adding more expense for the operator, I would personally like to request that you look at a 3/4 version, because in the aftermarket even you can go back 10 10 years easy, and 3/4 tube has been standard in the
Yeah,
UK.
okay.
Sprays, yeah.
One man of the manufacturer is called, it is a German one, Stauf.com. You just see their website, and they have several of those clamps available. And I think if you would add several additional clamps, it would be even more expensive, and I would say 50% of the users will throw them away. That's why I decided, okay, just put one option in there, and the rest has to be solved out in the field.
Just make a 3/4 clamp kit. Don't add more, like you do for different nozzle body sizes. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So make a 3/4 kit and don't put a 1/2 inch one in.
Yeah.
It would be most sensible. I just believe that makes it very difficult for. Yeah, I can go source it, but I'm going to put extra cost into this. Yeah, I think it's an excellent piece of kit for the aftermarket.
Yeah,
it has to be 3/4 for the UK market. Yeah, that's what I'm
saying.
And I would say also for other markets personally.
Please, Richard, send your request to Andreas. He finally will decide if we will do it or not.
It's on its way already.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I agree with Richard. It's 3/4 sounds like a more needed option. Yes, sure.
I have a kit upstairs. I never noticed it was 3. It was only 1/2 inch, to be fair. So I'm pleased to mention this today.
Yeah. Okay. The question, Jan. This was the one for the border nozzle.
Yes, and next one is about this narrower versus wider angle that Lechler only offers. Why do we go for 120 versus 110?
Yeah, as you know, our main portfolio is running 120 degree nozzles, and I often, when I'm joking, I say, okay, you're getting 10 degree more for the same price. You get a high quality and 10 degree more, but the reality, 110 and 120 is the same. This is more an historical picture that mainly Lechler is doing 90 degree, also in industry, 120 degree. Some, the deflector ones, do have 140 degree. But as you are aware, the STs, the standard ones, they are claimed 110 and 80. And so when we are designing our nozzles, flow rate, cross distribution, first and second, and then there's coming nothing, and then I would say the 5th position or the 4th is the spray angle, because as you know, the spray angle always varies with the pressure. And so I always claim it's the same. It's like we do 120, and it's a little bit of benefit if you really go low with the boom, low with the pressure, to fulfill regulations. The 120 degree helps that when the spray pattern collapses a little bit, we still have a good cross distribution. But in reality, it's the same. Okay. One more, Pavel. Yeah, Pavel. You can open your microphone if you would like to.
It was a mistake, sorry.
Yeah, okay, you raised your hand. Yeah.
Okay.
If you would like to open your microphone, we are in the discussion now. Just do it. Yeah, he's clapping his hand. Thank you for the feedback. If you would like to open the microphone, and then let's discuss. And
Jürgen, just for the UK's benefit, the CTS system will be at serials in June.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From the UK,
yeah. Our plan is with now we are developing the system. We will have I think 5 or 6 systems for field testing and for showing. And I heard that it's also you get some subsidy on CTS already in the UK. Is that right?
We did before we had the last chancellor, and now they attack the farmers. So maybe they won't give us any money at the moment. Yeah, it was planned that DEFRA was going to give us some subsidies, but I think at the moment the subsidies from DEFRA at the moment are on hold at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
But hopefully they will come back. Yeah.
Our plan is, of course, to show the unit also on Agritechnica, and we're also planning a demo tour for some manufacturers. They're asking us, okay, could we see the unit really in reality? There was Jerome from Quaneland. He asked us, and other guys from John Deere were there. And they just want to see it, especially in the Netherlands. We have a huge request already because the manufacturers and the dealers, they want to prepare themselves. It's not finally really fixed if it will be a law from July 26 on, but it's now at the moment discussed in the parliament in the Netherlands.
Mhm.
Is there anything, Jérôme, in France discussed about regulations for CTS?
No, we don't have any dates planned for the future regarding CTS systems, but
Yeah.
it will come. It will come for sure.
Yeah.
But nowadays, no regulation about that.
Yeah, in Germany, we're talking 2030 maybe. And also it takes 1, 2, 3 years till all the cans, the canisters are converted into these new Easy Connect caps, because they're also a bit more expensive as a standard cap.
That's going to be the key to the success for the chemical manufacturers to move over to the cap.
Yeah, at the moment we have to send out also additional caps, and they have to unscrew and put, because not all the chemicals, only a few at the moment. Syngenta seems to be really fast. Bayer seems to be quite slow. BASF somewhere in the middle. Corteva is also pushing. But other ones, they say, okay, we are joined this Easy Connect working group, but it will take at least 3 years down the road to transfer into a new can, into a new canister. So any more questions from your side? In the question and answer box, there are no questions. Was there a question? Jan, a question from your side?
No, there was
feedback.
Yeah, but actually I will, in the name of Pavel, I will ask, Pavel ask if we can get this PowerPoint presentation.
What would you like to pay, Jan?
You'll pay what it's worth.
You can get it. I will share with you. You can get it as a PowerPoint or as a PDF. Both is possible, and of course the recording will be available on our Lechler YouTube channel of the Ag division. It will be edited, and then it will be available to review in the future. Okay. So thank you to have you here for a long time this morning to discuss all kind of topics. And of course, we will plan, I think, webinars also for the next year. It was good to split fertilizer and plant protection in two webinars. It would be too long to discuss all the topics with a good timing. And we're thinking about orchard and wine. We did one, but the feedback was not that much. So we're thinking about to do one for orchard and wine and mist blowers. We have to share information, Jan, if we should do one next year or not.
And regarding this presentation, as well as the former one regarding fertilizer nozzles, if you have some more questions or requests from us, don't hesitate to contact us, responsible persons for your territory, who you know, of course. Email or call us, so we will be of help.
Yeah. So I would like to wish you a good season, normal business, normal climate or weather. But over the last year was always up and down, dry and flooded. So hopefully we will have good growing conditions and good prices for our customers. Okay, Jan.
Thank you.
I wish all a nice weekend when it's coming.
Sure.
Thank you for the feedback. Bye-bye, Jérôme. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your coming.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.